Hey there, welcome back. So it's October, which means I feel obligated to talk about my favorite horror books, thriller books, etc., etc. So we're starting with horror today. One of my, in no particular order, by the way, one of my favorites, possibly due to nostalgia, is going to be The Ruins. I love this book. It has been too long since I've read it, so I apologize if some of these details are a little bit off. But a group of, I think, one's I think in medical school, so we're going to go 20-year-old people are all on a vacation and I want to say Mexico, and they go to these ruins. They get trapped up there by circumstance. There is something keeping them there. I really don't want to give any details. There's body horror. There is what most people describe as unlikable characters that you just want to re-die. However, I really liked these characters when I read it, and I feel I need to reread it. I've also been told the audiobook is much better than the physical book, as the physical book is a lot of like just big text blocks. So it's more enjoyable to listen to the audiobook, and I really recommend it. The movie based on this was terrible, but I loved it because nostalgia. One of my first horror movies. Keeping with the kind of themes of that it's going into that book, and I probably shouldn't say this, but it might be accidentally spoiler for that. But anywho, the Hatching is going to be the next one that has a similar monsterish vibe to it. We have spiders taking over the world. This is almost more thriller than horror, but all you need to know about the Hatching is spiders take over the world and how governments and regular people respond to this. Those Across the River is the next like monstery-ish one that I read recently, actually. It takes place, I don't know the time period, but a time period where the N-word is used far too frequently, and it was jarring because at first I thought it was modern day, and it is not. So go in knowing that. It is a man who is writing a book about a ancestor of him who owned a bunch of slaves, and then there was a slave revolt, and the ancestor was killed, so he is writing the life story and has been told, do not go to this town, but he chooses to ignore it. What can I go without spoilers? It feels like a classic monster movie, but with modern day writing and pacing, and I greatly enjoyed that. Last on my monstery kind of feel vibes is going to be Into the Drowning Deep. Love this one, flew through it. It's quite a long book, and I read it in like 2 sittings. There are so many characters, lots and lots of points of view that you are following, but the characterizations of everyone is so distinct and well done. I was never confused for a second. I knew who everybody was. I knew why they were on this boat. I knew all their character relationships, their motivations, and everything. This is a couple years back. A boat had went missing filming a mockumentary slash documentary. I think it was a mockumentary, obviously. Looking for mermaids. And now this new boat is going out to figure out what happened to that original one. And there's also a lot of scientists involved on this boat because they are using it as a reason to get out to the middle of the ocean, take water samples, and conduct their own actual scientific research. I loved the science of this. It was just plausible enough if you squint your eyes and mythology to make you believe like mermaids could actually exist. I was promised killer mermaids. I got killer mermaids. I love this book. Going with books with some kind of message, I have to talk about Tender as the Flesh. Go into that with a fair warning you might turn vegan coming out of it. This is pretty straightforward. What if meat became taboo to eat? A virus has supposedly made the consumption of animal meats deadly, and to replace this, because apparently the only way to live a full life is to consume meat, so humans are raised for the express purpose of being meat. And it is described so clinically in its graphic, disturbing way. Like, replace every documentary you have ever watched concerning the poultry industry, the cattle industry, whatever, Yeah, replace those animals with humans, and like veal is still a thing in this world. It is disturbing, but not gratuitously written. And then it would be a perfect 5-star book for me, but it lost me in the second half. But I still really recommend it just for the world building accomplished in this first part. I have to include A Dowry of Blood. This is a Dracula retelling, and for record, I am not a fan of Dracula. And retelling is probably the wrong word. It tells the points of view from the point of view of one of the wives, and it's polyamorous ish. No ish, yeah, it is. And then also the relationships between the wives and other people related to Dracula, but they don't even use his name. It's like going into this abusive, controlling relationship and exploring different themes. I don't want to give away any spoilers. It's a very short book. I don't want to go into the topics that are discussed. It is just very enjoyable read, and I'm quite happy with it. Going into some like spin-off of classics, it got some classic vibes to it, or inspired by a classic one. We have to say A Head Full of Ghosts. I have issues with this book. It feels like just a rewrite, too heavily inspired from The Exorcist. This is a girl is supposedly possessed, and to pay for medical bills and other treatments, they agree to go on this reality show where an exorcism will be performed. And it's all told from the point of view of the little sister, graphic descriptions of many things, and has 2 timelines of the little sister as an adult, and then, of course, like during the time that this filming was taking place. I hated the adult timeline, and like I said, I was mildly annoyed by how much this felt like just a repeat of The Exorcist, but the ending has stuck with me over the years, burned into my brain. Loved that ending. So I gotta recommend it for that alone. The rest of it was enjoyable. It wasn't bad, but it went from mediocre to incredible with that ending. One of my all-time favorites gotta be Lock Every Door. It has vibes of a couple different classics in there, one specifically, but I don't want to risk a spoiler by saying which classic. Basically, a girl is apartment sitting. There are some really strange rules for this apartment sitter, and she can't talk to any of the other guests, and people are going missing, and she's trying to figure out what's going on. There's talk about poverty. There's a twist ending that I should have seen coming, and I don't know if it was because I was new to thrillers at the time, but I didn't see it coming. And I loved it. I love this book. I binged it in a day. It's lovely. A little tiny bit slow paced. I can understand some criticisms, like it took a while maybe for other people to get invested in this story. I was not one of those people. I was invested from like page 1. Let's go with some psychological thrillers going on. I have to say Confessions. How do I describe the masterpiece that is Confessions? I thought, just by the pitch I was told of a teacher getting revenge on her young class, I don't remember what age it was, but very like elementary school class, for they had killed, or she felt they were responsible for killing her daughter. And I was expecting gross body horror, torture, trap them in a classroom. No, that is not this book. This is a slow psychological horror that it focuses on the event of the child's death, and it's told from different points of view, all reflecting back on this incident, but then expanding out, so you get a little bit more detail each time. You learn something new from a different perspective. It can be very repetitive because, again, you're examining this same incident from different points of view, but it's great. It also monologues, and it's large text blocks, and I shouldn't like that writing style. I normally don't. In this way, it felt perfect. I cannot sing these praises enough. It is not going to be for everybody. I get some of the choices made make it a little hard for other people to really connect with it, but oh my god, I love this book. Binged it in one sitting, loved it. just such twisted little psychopaths in this book. Please read it, please. Another book with just some paranormal, sci-fi-ish vibes is going to be Intercepts. I didn't connect 100% with the writing. I didn't feel the atmosphere was used to its full extent, but I really did enjoy this book. There was a little bit of tongue-in-cheek humor going on, and it is a facility that is doing some sketchy stuff. And I actually read this looking for a book that reminded me of Freddy Krueger Nightmare on Elm Street, and it was the closest one to the vibes of that. It actually fit the vibes pretty decently. This man is in charge of doing research with these people, and they may not be doing good research in terms of ethics. There is body horror. There are psychosis. It is exciting. There's a daughter family involved. There's what's real, what's not. Can you trust what you see? Hence many things. I don't want to give spoilers. It is really good and I recommend. And for the vibes, I gotta say The Shadows. This is another what can you trust kind of thing. Two timelines. There's a murder in the present timeline. There was a murder in the past. How are they connected? And in the past, you have this group of friends who are trying to learn how to lucid dream. And I just love the vibes of, is there a monster in my dreams and is it coming after me? And I wish that was played up just a little bit more. But I could not stop with this book. Every chapter had a cliffhanger. It felt like I was reading at a breakneck pace. I just could not stop reading. I don't know what it is about this author's writing that just hooks me so much. All right, going back to some classics, I have to recommend these. This is going to be Rosemary's Baby. Okay, I picked this up because I just wanted to read some classics. I didn't expect to actually like it. I expected the writing style to be dated. I don't know why I thought that, because past Jessica was an idiot. I felt Rosemary's Isolation. I felt this atmosphere. The Bartholomew Hotel was, oh my god, amazing atmosphere. You know the plot of Rosemary's Baby. Knowing the plot, knowing the twist takes away nothing. I've never hated characters as much as Guy. I felt for Rosemary so much. I highly recommend this book. Come Closer is a recent one I read. I don't think it technically counts as a classic. It might be just like, hey, 2000s vibes. It is a possession story told from the point of view of the person being possessed. So losing time, acting strange. And she has like this magazine with a checklist in the back, like, how many of these are you checking off to tell if you're possessed? It's like, oh, you only checked off 2, you're fine. Oh, you checked off like 5, maybe see a mental health professional. Oh, you checked off all of them, get yourself to a priest. It also has my absolute favorite description or even medium of an exorcism that takes place. When she goes through the exorcism, does this have a movie adaptation? Because I would kill to see that visually. That it was perfect. I loved it so much. This was a great book, a great ending. It was very bleak. I really recommend this one. Jumping back to classics that definitely hold up despite knowing the plot twist, Psycho. Very short. The Alfred Hitchcock movie definitely stuck very loyally to the story. I knew every single thing about this plot going into this book, and somehow I was still captured in it. I loved the writing, I loved the atmosphere, the plot twist, I guess, wasn't surprising, obviously, because I knew it, but that distracted from nothing. The characters, the setting, the vibes, highly recommend, especially if you're a fan of the movie. And if you've never seen the movie and don't know what I'm talking about when I say Psycho, or just, I don't know, didn't go into the you don't know the pop culture knowledge, I definitely recommend you read it. Does some of its message themes hold up to a modern day lens, or would people have criticisms with events that take place? Probably. Some people would definitely have very justified criticisms for how a certain character is portrayed. Frankenstein is another classic that absolutely holds up. Unlike Psycho, though, the movie does not do this justice at all. It is barely even the same vibes. I don't even think this movie follows anything of the book. Um, it is all vibes, like written in 1818, so the writing style is a lot to adjust to, and I don't think I'm going to be selling this well. This is one of the origins of science fiction horror kind of books. I recommend you read this classic. Next, we're going to have The Hellbound Heart, another fantastic read. Very short. I didn't expect to like this just because I didn't like the movie that much in terms of story. I like the effects and the makeup and the costumes. I appreciate the artistic design of it, so I didn't expect to like the book at all. Yet I loved it. The writing was immersive, it was gruesome, it was engaging, it was atmospheric. The plot was the same as the movie, yet somehow I was more engaged. I don't know what to tell you. And I'm just going to include 2 books from Stephen King because he's going to get his own list before this month is out, and that is going to be both Pet Sematary and Carrie. Pet Sematary is an exploration of grief. It is such a good character study. This was when I wasn't a fan of Stephen King, and I still binged this entire book. You know the plot of Pet Sematary. Sometimes dead is better. You bury something in this pet cemetery, and it can come back to life. The last book is going to be Carrie. This is my all-time favorite book possibly ever, let alone horror. Just in general, I am obsessed with Carrie. It's a tragedy. This isn't even a horror book. It is a tragedy. You want Carrie's life to be better. You appreciate her determination and strength that she has. And you know it's going to go badly for her, and it is just heartbreaking, soul-crushing. I love this book. You know the plot of it. Knowing the plot, if you can consider it a plot twist, takes away nothing from this book. Absolutely adore Carrie. Perfect Halloween read. Perfect read for any time of the year. I want to reread it now. All right. Those are my favorite horror books in general, and I will get back to you on some of my favorite thrillers.